Despite a thrilling playoffs that's currently underway, the lawsuit that 2311 Racing and FRM filed against NASCAR continues to make headlines. But now NASCAR has launched their own counterattack, and it's bad news for the plaintiffs. NASCAR has responded to the antitrust lawsuit filed by 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, calling the claims meritless and aiming to dismiss the case. The lawsuit, initiated by the teams, accuses NASCAR of engaging in monopolistic practices that limit competition. Specifically, the lawsuit alleges that NASCAR controls racetracks through exclusivity deals and limits team participation through ownership of parts and series like ARCA, violating antitrust laws. NASCAR, in its response, argued that the team's request for a preliminary injunction was unwarranted, stating that there were no extraordinary circumstances that would justify altering the status quo. NASCAR also contended that the teams could still compete as non-chartered or open teams, meaning any damages could be compensated with money rather than requiring immediate changes to NASCAR's system. NASCAR further emphasized that the dispute is primarily contractual rather than an antitrust violation. The legal battle stems from a breakdown in negotiations over team charters, which guarantee entry into NASCAR races. 2311 and FRM were the only teams that chose not to sign a new charter agreement, leading to their lawsuit. This case has the potential to impact how NASCAR operates its charter system and team dynamics in the future if the teams prevail. The antitrust lawsuit filed by 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports against NASCAR has the potential to significantly alter how the sport operates, especially concerning team charters, revenue distribution, and competition rules. The current NASCAR charter system, introduced in 2016, guarantees teams a spot in races and provides revenue sharing and other benefits. However, the lawsuit claims that the system is anti-competitive, restricting teams' ability to grow and independently secure value. If the court sides with the teams, NASCAR may be forced to revise or even dismantle its charter system, making entry into races more competitive and less predictable for teams. This could destabilize established teams while offering new opportunities for smaller or independent teams to enter the sport. NASCAR is accused of monopolistic practices such as controlling key racetracks and restricting participation in other racing events through exclusivity deals. If the lawsuit is successful, NASCAR could be compelled to open its race venues to more events and competitors, potentially reducing its stranglehold on stock car racing in the U.S. This would also affect NASCAR's business model, as racetrack and series ownerships, such as ARCA, would come under scrutiny and could be broken up. NASCAR's NextGen Car, which uses single-source suppliers for most parts, is also being challenged in the lawsuit. The claim is that this arrangement stifles innovation and makes it difficult for teams to remain competitive. If the court agrees, NASCAR might need to revise its supplier contracts, allowing teams more freedom to source parts from multiple suppliers. This change could increase costs for some teams, but may encourage greater technological advancement and performance diversity across the field. Another central issue is NASCAR's control over revenue distribution. The lawsuit argues for a more equitable system where teams, sponsors, and drivers would receive a larger share of the profits. A ruling in favor of the teams could lead to increased transparency in how funds are allocated, potentially mirroring other professional sports leagues where revenue sharing plays a significant role in team stability. Overall, this lawsuit could force NASCAR to adopt a more transparent, competitive, and flexible system that benefits not only established teams but also newer entrants, potentially changing the sport's structure and governance for years to come. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports are actively working to ensure their participation in the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series, despite their legal battle with NASCAR over the charter system. Both teams declined to sign the new charter agreements for the 2025 season, which prompted their antitrust lawsuit. However, they are seeking a court ruling that would allow them to compete as open teams in the meantime. An open team operates without a charter, meaning they must qualify for each race on a week-by-week basis, and do not receive the guaranteed revenue or race entry privileges enjoyed by chartered teams. While this path is more uncertain, 2311 and FRM are pursuing this option as a temporary measure to remain in the sport while the legal case unfolds. The lawsuit also includes a request for a preliminary injunction that would allow the teams to continue competing in 2025 under the old charter system while the court case proceeds. If this injunction is granted, it would prevent NASCAR from enforcing its new charter agreements against 2311 and FRM, giving them a more secure position on the grid. However, NASCAR has opposed this request, arguing that the teams are not facing irreparable harm since they can still race as open. Both teams have expressed their determination to race in 2025, regardless of the legal outcome, showing their commitment to finding a path forward in NASCAR's highly competitive environment. If they prevail in court, it could reshape how teams enter and compete in the series, potentially reducing NASCAR's control over the grid. In the past, we've seen NASCAR handle similar things with a bit of a do-or-die policy. Back in 1961, there was one driver, Curtis Turner, and his business partner, Bruton Smith. Turner tried to form a union with Smith. They sought help from the Teamsters Union to form the Federation of Professional Athletes, or FPA. However, Bill France Sr. was not happy with this at all. Given that NASCAR has always been a private company, they can operate as they wish, and Bill France made it clear that any union-affiliated driver would not be a part of the NASCAR grid. The rest of the drivers quickly fell into line in fear of not being able to race in NASCAR. A similar thing happened in 1969 when Richard Petty and a few other drivers decided to boycott a race. France Sr. just got other drivers to fill the empty seats and continued on with the race. Bill France Jr. could be looking to do the same thing here as well. With 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports having filed a case, France Jr. could ban them from the 2025 grid, as they have not signed the charter agreement yet. This could scare the rest of the teams off joining the lawsuit, and could even cause 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports to drop their lawsuit. But the two teams have also shown some stubbornness from their side, which could result in a battle. Ever since the start of the negotiations, Denny Hamlin has been vocal about what he and the other teams are looking for in a new contract. They wanted the teams to earn more money and have more control in the sporting rules and regulations. However, NASCAR has said that they will not do so. Front Row Motorsport and 2311 included a list of what they called anti-competitive practices from NASCAR leadership, buying a majority of the premier racetracks that are exclusive to NASCAR races, imposing exclusivity deals on NASCAR-sanctioned racetracks, acquiring Automobile Racing Club of America, or ARCA, the only notable stock car racing series competitor, preventing teams from participating in any other stock car races while also retaining ownership over NextGen parts and cars, forcing teams to buy their parts from single-source suppliers chosen by NASCAR. However, NASCAR is not willing to succumb to these demands. They want to retain control of the sport and govern it as they see fit. They also want to retain the majority of the revenue instead of sharing more with the teams. Ideally, it's in NASCAR's best interest to settle the case outside the courtroom. If things head to the courtroom, anything can happen. Besides, the financial records of NASCAR, which used to be private, will suddenly become public. This may not be the best thing for NASCAR, as they will not want to reveal how much revenue they generate in the season. If that is revealed, more teams will find their fee unfair and demand for a larger piece of the pie. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have hired Jeffrey Kessler to represent the teams. He'll be taking on NASCAR in this lawsuit. Here's what he had to say about the lawsuit. There's no other major sport where one family has run that sport as its own personal fee stub and piggy bank, the way that NASCAR has been run, Kessler said. We will see what impact that has in terms of how they try to defend themselves. We will see what impact that has in terms of whether it's possible to settle this case, or whether we have to take it all the way through trial. Either way, we are prepared to do what's necessary to effectuate change. An antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR would not only pose financial and operational risks, but could also weaken the entire structure of the sport. The centralized model that has helped NASCAR maintain its identity and market power could be fractured, leading to long-term challenges for both the organization and the broader motorsports industry. What are your thoughts on the lawsuit filed by 2311 Racing and FRM? Post them down in the comment section.